All right, everyone, thank you for your patience. We're ready to get started now. My name is Tatiana Calfani. I'm the Assistant Director of the Office of International Programs at Felician University. I'm joined with JC and Carol to talk about financing scholarships and job opportunities on campus and after graduation. I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves now.
Thank you, Tatiana. Welcome, everyone. I'm JC Fry, and I'm the Director of the Kearney Center for International Student Services at Minnesota State University Mankato.
Thank you, JC and Tatiana. I'm Carol Feaster. I'm the Coordinator for International Recruitment and Admissions at Upper Iowa University. So we'll start our presentation now. A lot of times, students wonder how they're going to be able to finance their college education. So that's basically what we are going to go through today. Your education can be funded in many ways. Obviously, the best way would be through scholarships and grants, because these you do not have to pay back. They are like a gift. There are other loans. They can be personal loans. They can be private loans from an individual or from a financial institution. A loan can be federally funded. There can also be tuition waivers. We will also cover employment authorizations, which include OPT, CPT, economic hardship, and working on campus, and some examples of work. And then finally, we will discuss the funding that you need to have in order to obtain your I-20. So we will wait till the end. We will definitely have questions, I'm sure, and we'll have plenty of time to take all of your questions.
I'm not sure if it's just me, but I can't see the slide that we're on. I think you just read from slide 2, but I'm only seeing slide 1.
Oh.
Carol, what slide do you see?
I see slide 3 now.
Okay, it's me then, sorry.
Okay. So we'll go over a little bit of terminology. I think JC is going to tag team with me on this, as I'm not in the area of OPT and that sort of thing. But as for scholarships, there are many different kinds. There are merit-based kind, which is basically a scholarship that is based on your grade point average. Generally, the higher your grade point average, the more money you will be given by a particular university. There are also need-based scholarships. These are based on your financial situation. JC, would you like to take the country regional?
Yeah, for sure. You can check with your home country to see if there are any scholarships that would help support your education abroad. It really varies by region and country, but we want you to do as much research as you can while you're still home to see how you can best finance your education in the United States. And then there's, of course, government-funded scholarships. Some governments do fund partial or full payments for students to study abroad. And that includes tuition, fees, stipends, housing. So you want to make sure you do your research to see what's available to you from your home country.
And then the government-funded, that's similar. A lot of countries will actually, the government will actually sponsor the student to come to the US to study. Privately funded, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this has to do with perhaps going to your parents, relatives, aunts, uncles. They can be a sponsor for you and help to fund your education in the US.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. You want to take diversity, and I can take athletic.
Yeah, so you know, depending on where you're from and maybe what ethnic group you come from, there may be some diversity scholarships based on that. So like I said, you just really need to search and search, and thank goodness for Google and the internet, because you may be able to find, some opportunities that are available to you based on who you are, where you're from, and what your background is.
Just wanted to jump in there. This isn't exactly diversity, but sort of along the same lines. It's true, you really do have to search for these scholarship opportunities because they can come from the most strange place. I once saw a scholarship for students who wore a dress covered in duct tape for their prom. It was specifically for those kinds of students. So there are scholarships out there. You just really have to dig for them and find something that matches the kind of student you are.
And then I don't know where this one falls either, but like for first generation students, a lot of universities will offer a special tuition rate or a scholarship. So like if you're the very first one in your family to ever go to college, you may qualify for a scholarship for that. Lots of universities have very good sports or athletic departments, and so you can earn an athletic scholarship if you are really good at a particular sport.
Right. And also the departmental scholarships, once you get into school, you may declare a major, and then those specific academic departments may have additional scholarship opportunities for you. So it's not just at the beginning while you're searching, it will be through your entire education in the US where you can search and locate and secure some additional funding.
So as far as grants, this is also an area of free money. If you receive a grant, you do not have to pay that back. Do you mind taking?
Sure. And I just listed a few different grants that we know students have used in the past at our school for their education. So the Fulbright has some funding opportunities that you could definitely investigate to see if they would meet you and your needs and if you'd qualify. The AAUW International Fellowship can help fund some of your education. The universities that you're applying to may have specific grants for international students. And then once you're a student at campus, they may have additional funding for you for emergency and for unpredictable things. Right now at my university, we've helped international students with some emergency grants because of COVID. On-campus employment and their parents back home, their employment has been disrupted. And so you just have to be vigilant and keep researching. There's going to be opportunities for you.
And then the last category we wanted to cover are loans, which all of those have to be paid back. Although I have been reading that sometimes there are forgivable loans where when you do finish your education, you do not have to pay them back, but I can't speak educated about that because I just read something briefly the other day. But anyway, you would want to check with your local banks, credit unions. You can check online. Just make sure that they are a reputable company before you start giving all of your personal information to them. And then, as we mentioned earlier, you can also check with your government to see if they have any funding or if you could take a student loan out through them.
I just wanted to say that though loans are a really good option for many students, you do have to be careful. Like you said, you have to make sure that the loan provider is somebody reputable. But also, I found that it is difficult for some international students to get loans without a cosigner in the USA. So it might be a better option for one of you who may have, I don't know, a cousin or an uncle who lives in the US and can help you secure that loan.
That's a great point. Yeah. So we can move on to the next slide. Carol, can you see slide 4?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So you can search for funding opportunities in various ways, but the internet is going to be your best friend for this. So IIE, the Institute of International Education, is a good resource for you. You can also look at Education USA, and you can also lean on your Education USA regional office if you have one near where you live. They may have funding opportunities available. They may be able to connect you with different opportunities. You can look at the website You Are Welcome Here and Google that, and any school that's listed on that website will be covering a good, a decent portion of your tuition and fees. So those are universities and colleges in the United States that have committed to helping international students with tuition and fees. And so we want you to know that you're welcome here, and those schools are willing and ready to help make tuition affordable. You can also search on the NAFSA website and search for financial aid options. You may be familiar with the College Board website if you've taken the SAT. They might have some listings of some scholarship opportunities or funding available. Internationalstudent.com is also another way you can search, and Study USA. And then each school that you are looking at to apply should have their own scholarship search tool. And we've listed our school scholarship search pages on here. And this PowerPoint is available to you in the files that are associated with this presentation. So you're going to be able to download this and have this link, and then these search items too. All right, Tatiana, can you see slide 5?
I can't, but I had it pulled up on my computer, so I'm okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so we're going to talk about how to obtain your I-20 for a bit. Your I-20 is an important document needed to apply for your visa application when you're trying to get your F1 study visa. So most schools will have some sort of application or data form for you to fill out. It'll include things like your permanent address in your home country and your birthday, what program you want to study at the university. But what we're talking about here is finances. So you can see in this little picture here on the left side is the breakdown of tuition and fees and all of the student-related expenses for one academic year, which is 9 months. So for this university, it shows the tuition costs, the estimated living expenses, and the estimated costs for insurance and books and supplies. Obviously, these amounts will change a bit depending on what school you go to and what city it's in, because living expenses change from city to city. But what is really important is that the school will need to have some sort of financial guarantee that you have the funding to study for 9 months in the US. The school not only needs it, but the US government needs it. You know, it's going to be asked for when you go to your embassy or your consulate for your visa application. And so on the other side of the I-20, you can see the students' funding. This is showing the consulate member that's handling your visa application and doing your interview. This is showing them that you have the funding for that 9 months. So you can see here, it says personal funds is 0. For that student, that means that that student does not have any money of his or her own. The funding is coming from somewhere else. And this breaks it down. So there's about $7,000 that comes from an international scholarship. Most schools will offer a merit-based scholarship, so that's that. The next line for about $23,000 is from a sponsor. Normally that's from a family member, maybe your father or your uncle or your grandfather, I don't know, is helping to pay for your schooling. And they would prove that by providing bank statements. That's normally what's asked for when you apply for an I-20. If you don't have that sort of sponsorship from a friend or family member, it could also be that sponsorship can be proven through like an outside scholarship. If you found another scholarship, if you had an athletic scholarship or a scholarship from your high school, that's going to provide you with a good chunk of your tuition. We'll be able to put that there on your I-20 application as well. The last line is for on-campus employment. We will talk about that a little bit later, but it's not typically something that an undergraduate student will have on their I-20. Yeah, do you guys want to add anything to that?
No, I think you did a good job of covering it. I think it can be maybe one of the more stressful pieces to a student's application to the university.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so, you know, you just need to be able to show that you can cover your expenses for one academic year, with the idea that that will be with you each year that it takes you to complete your degree. So you really need to be able to rely on that sponsor or your personal funds or whatever way it is that you're documenting to a visa officer that you're going to fund your education.
I was just going to say, I have even had some students where their church sponsored them. So
yeah, that's possible too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You could definitely get creative. Like you said, I've seen students. I've actually had a student had a church sponsor them as well. And the good thing is, you know, even though it is difficult to come up with $30,000 or $20,000 sometimes, you really do only have to show it for 1 year. You don't have to show this ×4 for your entire undergraduate career. So it is normally doable with some creativity.
Nice. Okay, we'll move to the next slide. So I'm sure you're thinking about other ways that you want to fund your education, but I just want you to understand that you shouldn't expect to rely on off-campus employment as part of your financing to cover your program. There are a few different ways that you may work off campus while you're a student in your program, but with that come some requirements and things that you need to meet before you become eligible. So you have to be in a valid F1 student visa status for 1 academic year, or essentially 9 months, to be eligible to apply for these off-campus employment authorizations. The one that would likely be available to you first would be an internship opportunity, or what we call curricular practical training, CPT. CPT is a work authorization for you to gain practical experience in your field of study. It does not cost anything to apply. It's approved quickly. It's done in your international office, and it's the work authorization is given for a limited duration, typically for a semester. These internships and practicums are used during your program while you're enrolled, and it's tied directly to an academic component, so curricular, think that. Some students will do these for a semester or 2, maybe for the summer. At my school, you know, and each school may have their own policies, but our school requires students to be enrolled in a course that this training experience is related to. And so it is tied to a semester or one of our periods of study.
My school as well, by the way.
Yeah, and each school does have a little bit of flexibility and interpretation of the regulations. So it may be different. I hear that from our students. Well, my friend at this school doesn't have to register for a class. Okay, well, you don't go to school there. So each school may be a little bit different. Optional practical training, a bit different. You have to apply to the US government, and the processing and approval time is much longer. It's more likely a 90-day processing time. This is generally done at the end of your program, and it can be done, or it's approved for a 12-month period of employment and it must be within your field of study. So tied back to that program that's listed on your I-20. There are some instances where OPT can be done during your program, but we won't get into that today. That's just a little bit more complex. We just want to talk to you about what some of the opportunities are for you to be employed and earn some additional money. The last one is severe economic hardship work authorization. And this is similar to OPT, but it's a bit more difficult to obtain, and it's generally done, you know, during your academic program, and you're applying for this because you have some compelling reasons with really good evidence as to why your funding has changed and you're no longer able to cover your bills. Just give you a quick example. We've helped a handful of students at my school since May because of COVID, but COVID wasn't their only reason for applying for severe economic hardship. We had to document how their sponsor's ability to pay has been affected by COVID. And so it wasn't just, well, COVID happened and I can't pay my bills. These students had to work really hard to get documentation from home and showing that their sponsor has been affected by COVID and just isn't able to cover the expenses for the student. So the $410 filing fee, the 90-day approval, and then it's approved for a 12-month period. And so it's nothing immediate. So these students had to wait quite a while to get that approved, but we are seeing the approvals come in and students are finding work off campus, and it doesn't have to be in their field of study. They can work 20 hours a week and get some help with paying their bills. Can move on to on-campus employment.
So on-campus employment is normally what a student will do as they're studying, and any F1 student is eligible to work on campus. There's no special thing you need to do to apply or get authorization to do so. For my school, we have an online job board. I think most schools probably will at this point. So I would recommend students that are interested in working on campus to find their job board or keep their ears open for job opportunities on campus. Normally a student's allowed to work part-time, that's 20 hours a week while school's in session. They can work full-time during school breaks and during the summer. Currently in my office and in my university, there are 2 student workers who sort of man the desk in our office. They, take phone calls, they answer emails. They each work about 15 hours a week, and they each get about $10 an hour. That's pretty average. JC, or do you guys have any student workers that you work with closely? Carol? Either of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm JC. Yeah, we do. We actually hired quite a few on-campus students in our office, and they're making close to $10 an hour. Yep.
Yeah.
Same here.
Actually, you too, Carol?
Yes. Sorry about that. I was having
It's all
some
right.
difficulty there.
I was just saying, I think it's beneficial for us, at least in the Office of International Programs, to have international students work with us. They can relate to students who are applying from other countries and help them with the F1 visa process because they've been through it themselves.
Yes, same here.
Right, yeah. There are other 2 opportunities that you could find on campus. I think, well, there's a list here. You'll find typically work in the residence halls, in the dining rooms, in the libraries, in the computer labs, in the bookstores. You can find jobs tutoring. I just want to say that it is important, though, that if you're looking for work while you're studying, that the jobs be on campus. If you find a job off campus, it can actually make your visa invalid. It's not worth it. Don't do it. So there are some jobs on campus that are classified as federally funded work study positions. Unfortunately, international students are not eligible for those positions. So just because you find a job that is on campus doesn't necessarily mean that you will be eligible for it. And for that reason, I think is also why we want to tell students not to, what's the word? Like, don't count on finding on campus employment and don't count on it being used to pay for your tuition. More realistically, it's better for book money and for food money. It's definitely helpful, but because it's not guaranteed and because the hours aren't so much, 20 hours a week isn't that much, it's really not suitable for tuition. Oh, social security number. So you do need a social security number to work on campus. I thought it was interesting that you actually need to have a job offer before you apply for your social security number. And that's a lot to remember, but the people that work in your international programs office will know exactly what you need to do to apply for that social security number. So when you start looking for work, just let somebody know and they will definitely help you through the process. We are here to help. We want to see you guys succeed. That is true across the board. Don't feel bad to ask for help. The last thing is taxes. You will definitely need to pay taxes to the United States government, even if you're not a United States citizen, which is part of the reason why you need a social security number. But again, we at the Office of International Programs, or whatever the equivalent is in your university, will definitely help you through that if you need help.
Nice, thank you. And I do want to reiterate what Tatiana said about the reliance on that on-campus job. So at my school, we have about 1,200 international students from over 95 countries. And they have really good networks of friends and fellow students before they even get to the United States. They have made connections already, so they are already plugged in to know what they need to do to be savvy to get an on-campus job. But it seriously takes them 2 or 3 semesters to get into the position of getting a job offer because it's so competitive. And you just really need to get to know departments and have them get to know you. And so just be patient and start trying to build those connections and relationships so that you're in a good position to take a job when they're ready to offer it.
Great point. Yes, I agree.
So today we just gave you some, a very, very overview and, just a general overview of financing your education in the US. And we want you to know that these are just the basic highlights. There are so many more rules and steps and regulations to follow. But you can rely and should rely on your international office. They are there to help you. They are the experts in the regulations, and they want to see you succeed, and they will do their best to guide you. Many students in the US will pay off their debts or loans that they've acquired while they're a student when they get to OPT. So when they've graduated and they are out earning now in their career, they will typically spend a good chunk of that money paying off their bills. I have many conversations with students who are contemplating applying for a new credit card to make a tuition payment. And those are big holes to dig early on in a higher ed, in your college experience. And so I would really encourage you to make sure you're financially ready before you take that big plunge of coming to the US to work on your degree. And just be realistic. You can't just take a semester off to stay in the US and work. You have to be enrolled full-time. That is your priority. That is why you're in the US. And so if you can't be enrolled full-time, you can surely take a semester off and go home. I've talked to many students about that, where they just can't make ends meet and they can't afford rent. They don't want to, have too much of unpaid tuition. So they'll take a semester and a summer off. They'll go home, not have to pay rent. They'll live at home. They'll save up some money so that when they come back to continue their studies, they're in a better spot. And so just be realistic and be planful, and you know, just take a good look at your finances and if you're really ready to take the plunge. So that's what we have for our presentation, and we have been answering questions throughout the presentation, but we would very much enjoy continuing this conversation. If anyone has a question, you can type them, or I think you can actually say your question if you want. Oh,
I think that they can raise their hand and then we can unmute them, it looks
okay.
like.
Yeah, awesome. All right, we'll start with Brianna. All right. We're going to promote you to a panelist, Brianna. You can speak. Brianna, do you have a question?
Well, we have two questions in the question and answer that have been typed. One's from Crystal McIntosh, and she's asking, is there an age limit for scholarship? I can answer for my university. There's not an age limit. Our scholarships are merit-based, which means the only thing we really consider are your credentials, specifically your GPA. So we're just looking at your transcript, what classes you've taken, and what grades you've gotten in those classes, and that will determine your scholarship award.
And Upper Iowa is exactly the same.
Excellent. And at my school, we don't have an age limit for the scholarship. All undergraduate international students receive the scholarship their first year. And then if they keep their GPA at a certain level and complete 6 experiences throughout that year, then they get to maintain that for the following year.
There's another question. Is there an oh, they're coming in now. Okay. Is there an application fee for each college? I can say that for my school, there's a $30 application fee. However, because you guys have joined this this webinar, it will be waived. There's an application fee waiver that I'll write in the comments so you guys have it. But each college is a little different. Some schools will charge, some schools won't, and the amount they charge will differ too.
Upper Iowa does not charge a fee.
And Minnesota State Mankato has a international student application fee waiver.
Cool, let's keep going. Are there international scholarships available for graduate students? Carol, do you want to start that one?
Sure. Unfortunately, Upper Iowa does not offer scholarships for graduate students, but we kind of made that decision based on the fact that it is very reasonably priced.
Yeah, JC?
Graduate school or graduate admission or student question? Yeah, we don't have scholarships available. We currently, I think our graduate tuition is the same as like a Minnesota student pays for graduate.
Mm-hmm.
But we do have a ton of graduate assistantships, and students who get a graduate assistantship do not pay tuition, and they get a $10,000 stipend. So it's a really great way to pursue your graduate studies.
Great. Let's see. How do you apply for a scholarship? Is there any exam? JC?
For our undergraduate, it's automatic. The International Maverick Scholarship is automatically applied to your account. Once you're a student, though, you can go into that scholarship search tool that each university has, and then you can start applying for scholarships where you meet the eligibility.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It says, I missed the part where you were talking about the types of scholarships. Will I be able to view that later? We all believe that this is being recorded and it should be available to students that registered as soon as it's over. Well, maybe not as soon as it's over, but soon after the webinar is completed, you should get a recording of it.
And then they can also go to the files area and look at the PowerPoint because our links are in there.
How does this go into getting some hands-on experience for pre-med aspirants working as a scribe? How does this go for international students and visa restrictions? I'm not entirely sure I understand the question. I suppose you're asking if a pre-med student wants to get some hands-on experience, they can do some volunteering, they can do CPT. I suppose that's the question.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my understanding of the question too.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're talking about is CPT. I'm currently preparing for the SAT exam. Can I still apply? I think
Yes.
many schools around the country are sort of SAT exempt. Are you guys the same?
Yes.
Yeah, because of the COVID pandemic, many schools understand that a lot of students haven't been able to take the SAT. So if you have taken the SAT, definitely submit your SAT scores, but it won't be necessary for you to apply to a school. In general, I can't say for sure. Well, there's so many questions. I don't know where to start. They all came all of a sudden. So, how would I participate in the graduate assistantship as an international student?
Yeah, I can answer that for sure. So on most universities will have, like a job listing website where they'll have career jobs and all sorts of jobs available on their campus. Ours, for instance, has one link that's specific to graduate assistants. So we require you to have admission to a graduate program to be eligible for an assistantship. And it doesn't have to be in your department. Like, let's say you're getting your master's degree in math and stats. You don't have to have your grad assistantship in math and stats. You can have it wherever you are interested in and meet the requirements across campus. My office, we have 6 graduate assistants, and I work in the international office, and we don't have an academic program. So these students come and help us with programming, putting on events, orientation, all sorts of different things. So once you get admission to a university, then you can start looking to see what sort of work opportunities will be available to you as a graduate student.
Good. Let's see. How do you begin the research process when looking for a scholarship best fit for you? A really good question. At the beginning of this presentation, there was a list of some websites that you could visit. I think JC mentioned that it's really good idea to get in touch with your EdUSA rep in your area, and also to check out a website called internationalstudent.com. And finally, I would say definitely look into the scholarships that the university offers themselves.
I see a question here about the fee waiver. If you have a fee waiver code to input into when you're filling out the online application and it accepts the code you put in, then you're eligible. So Tatiana put in her code for her school. I put mine in for Mankato's school, and Carol said they don't have a fee for applying. So
Correct.
apply for all 3 of our schools.
There you go. How about this one? Is there a language requirement? So I don't know about you guys, but Upper Iowa has a listing of the waiver schools. And basically, if you come from a country that English is the first language, or like the most spoken, shall we say, you do not have to show English proficiency. And it is listed on our international section of our website.
Right. Most schools will require you to show a proof of English proficiency if you're not from an English-speaking country. So at our school, we list the different ways that meet English proficiency. Is, we take an IELTS score, 5.5. We take a TOEFL of 61, and various other methods.
Yeah, we do the same. We take ESL exam results from multiple companies, including Duolingo. And if you haven't taken any of those ESL exams, you can enroll into our bridge program where we sort of teach you ESL before you begin your degree level studies.
That's a really great reminder, Tatiana. We have the same, right? So if you don't meet those requirements or you just don't have English proficiency, check to see if the school has a pathway or an intensive English program that you could learn and then begin your studies.
And I will third that because we also have an ESL program.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tatiana.
Yeah.
No problem.
My English program thanks you.
This one's a good one. If I can't afford to go to a university right away, is it okay for me to take the basic classes at a community college for a semester, then transfer to a university? Either of you want to jump in on that?
Absolutely. That's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's a really good idea. And we've actually, because of COVID, we've kind of explored even another avenue for students. We had 66 students start their programs online part-time from home this fall because they couldn't get here.
Yeah.
And so they're taking, 2 classes abroad, living at home, still eating mom's cooking, and are getting ready to come to campus when it's safe and they feel comfortable. So there's a lot of options. You don't have to jump right into a university.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Actually, I get this question I get a lot. It says, is there a scholarship with a fully funded fee and what are the requirements? I personally have never seen a university offer a student a full scholarship, an international student a full scholarship, unfortunately. The only students that I have seen get full scholarships are American students because they qualify for government-backed grants and scholarships, and international students aren't eligible for those grants. So I do not know any US school that offers full scholarships. Most will offer partial merit-based scholarships though.
We have some student athletes that have received very large athletic scholarships, and then when that's coupled along with the merit-based international scholarship, they pay very little, but it's still not free.
Yeah, we have some hockey players who are full ride international students, but that's about it.
That's a good point. Yeah, we have a few soccer players that have gotten it, but yeah, that's pretty competitive. You have to be really, really good.
Right.
It's possible, but it's competitive.
How would the scholarships you get outside of the institution you want to attend to apply for the institution?
A good question.
That is a good question.
If you're awarded a scholarship outside of the merit-based scholarship that the university gives you, I would just get in contact with whoever your admissions counselor is, and they'd be able to, one, verify that the scholarship was awarded to you, and it would be sort of credited to your bill. It shouldn't be super complicated if the scholarship you were awarded is reputable and verifiable.
I could take this one. If applying as an international transfer student, is my high school transcript still needed? I can only speak for Upper Iowa. We would still require a copy of your high school transcript. It would not have to be official or original. And then also on that note, if you do go to our scholarship page, we offer a very generous transfer scholarship for those who qualify.
I can answer the question about the IB student. So we don't offer certain benefits for applying to a scholarship because of your IB results, but your IB results may help waive your English proficiency requirement. And I'm not super familiar with the IB, so if either of you work more in admission, you can answer that. But I think there may be some opportunities to consider transfer work.
Yeah, I don't know too much of the specifics, but depending on which classes you took and what your major is and the grade you got in your IB class, there's definitely potential for it to be credited towards your degree.
Nice.
Right, and if you did receive really good grades, it would up your GPA when we convert it to the US GPA, which would increase your scholarship amount.
I can answer the question about the PhD degree. Students do not have to propose their thesis before they start their study, no.
I will handle the graduate tuition. This does not have a simple answer. It will depend on what university you apply to, and it will depend on what graduate program you'd like to apply to. I can speak to Felician. Generally, it's around $20,000 per year for graduate school, and normally graduate schools finish within 2 years. But again, that will depend on what you want to study, and that's only for Felician.
There's a question in the chat over that says, what will I need to get a job after college as an international student? So while you're a student, you want to really work on trying to build your skills and your experience to put on your resume. So you want to work with your department to see if there are internship opportunities that you can use in your program. You want to get as much experience as you can so that you're competitive when it comes time to applying for those post-degree employment opportunities. And if you haven't had a job during your program, you'll need to get a social security number to use with your employment when you're done. When you apply for that work authorization, you can also apply for your social security number at the same time. So, and then you also just want to make sure you follow all the rules and get the right employment authorization so that you can secure that job as an international student. And Erica Lindsay asked a question about the Maverick Scholarship on the I-20 form. So that was just a sample of the I-20s that come from my school and Minnesota State Mankato. So all international undergraduate students get that notation on their I-20 when they're on their initial I-20 they get with their admission letter. So yeah, that's something that will help you, I mean, that you can speak to at your visa appointment if you have any sort of funding from the school.
The last two questions here have sort of been answered before, but I'll just answer them again quickly. You're correct, most universities don't offer significant scholarships for master's programs, and that's mostly because master's programs are more inexpensively priced than undergraduate programs. So Felician, for example, automatically awards people $1,000 for their graduate studies, which isn't much, but again, you will be able to find scholarship opportunities if you dig, if you research a little on Google, and if you reach out to people in your EdUSA office. And as for the waiver codes, I believe in the chat to the right, we entered the waiver codes you can use if you decide to apply to our schools. And one of you, I think, doesn't have a charge at all, but I don't remember which one, sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
I don't know what the process for studying in Canada is. Do either of you?
I don't, unfortunately. I'm American.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, no, I don't at all.
Any other questions? We got about 10 more minutes left.
If you look at the files that are available in this presentation, I think some of us uploaded some more information about each of our schools. So you can learn a little bit more about what programs we offer, a little bit more about where our schools are located, and you should be able to have our contact information too. If you have any questions, or you want to learn more, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All three of us would be excited if you applied to one of our schools. We want to bring more international students to the United States, and we're here to help.
100% agree. Thank you very much.
Yes, I agree too.
And I'm putting the waiver codes in that chat box that just popped up again for both of our schools, Tatiana.
Thank you very much, JC.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, if there aren't any more questions, I hope you have a good week in the fair, and I hope that you get to talk to a lot of schools and learn a little bit more about the different educational opportunities that are available to you in the U.S.
Thank you so much for attending our session. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your questions.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.